Hi there. Thanks for your response on my YouTube short on the 8 watercolor techniques every beginner must know. Some of you requested for me to actually demonstrate these techniques in real time. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to create those 8 techniques, which are the building blocks of watercolors. So the first technique that we're going to do is a flat wash, where the objective is to achieve a smooth, even layer of color without any streaks or variations. Sounds simple, but very tough to do honestly. The idea is to just create a uniform background with a pigment and water with a tea-like consistency and to just leave it there. So that's your first technique, which is your flat wash. It's not ideal to go back and forth from the palette for a flat wash, and you should try and achieve this in as minimal strokes as possible. So for the next technique, which is called a gradient wash or a graded wash, the idea is to start strong, say with the pigment in high concentration, and gradually move to a lighter tone as you come down the paper. And of course you can even do the reverse, which is starting with a very light, almost equivalent to a white paper peeking through, and build up the color as you go along. Now with a wet on wet, where you've created the first wash with just water, the second step is to charge the paper, which has been pre-wet, with some of the paint. Now it depends on the subject that you're painting. For example, you can take paint straight from the tube, really concentrated, and just drop it in there and see what happens in terms of the paint spreading. You could also do a bit of a diluted tea-like solution to create some other effects, for example. So for this next technique, which is called wet on dry, the idea is to get sharp and controlled edges by applying wet paint onto dry paper, unlike wet on wet. And this is ideal for defining shapes and layers. So unlike wet on wet, a wet on dry has to be more defined and purposeful, because what you put out there is pretty much it. You can't change it after what you've done, right? So this is the technique which is called wet on dry. So the next technique is called a dry brush. Dry brush is almost like scraping or using pigment in high concentration in just wet brush for a textured or a scratchy effect that's perfect for detailing and adding interest. So you can actually hear the brush scraping against the dry watercolor paper. So this probably has the least amount of water out of all of these techniques, and this is called dry brush. Next we move on to a technique which is called lifting off, and that is a technique which basically helps create lighter value or correct mistakes or even create highlights, like I'm going to show you as a shine on a balloon. And you do this by lifting off the paper some paint with either a damp brush or blotting it away. So I'm going to just show you how to do that. And wipe it. Lift it off and wipe. So you can do that till you feel you've got the effect that you were looking for. Alright, the next technique is called negative space, one of the most revered techniques in my opinion in watercolors and difficult to perfect, but what an impact it has in beautiful landscapes when done well. So negative spaces is all about painting around the subject, leaving areas of paper untouched. So the white of the paper peeks through to define shapes and creating striking contrasts. Right? So I'm going to do the same subject as the balloon, but instead of lifting off the shine or lifting off the paint to create that shine on the water balloon, I'm actually going to do it by leaving a negative space this time. So as you can see between the two, the lifting off leaves a more subtle effect, whereas leaving a negative space right from the beginning with an intent will give a striker contrast of the white of the paper against the pigment. With that, we move on to the last technique. So the last technique is called glazing, where the objective is to layer transparent washes first, let it dry thoroughly, and then build subsequent layers to give a sense of depth, richness, and subtle color shifts. So the trick here is to really let the previous layers dry out, otherwise the color and the pigment will just merge with one another. So I'm just going to do some shapes around the corners or around this wash to show you how once you layer with the same pigment and wash, you start to get a sense of a different depth and color perception. Now just for example, we could also take a little bit of the cobalt blue on my palette to start to see how you would basically expect a purple when layered with, like this, when layered with Quinacridone Magenta. You can dry this layer too and then build subsequent layers on top of this. I hope you found this video useful. The idea is to continuously practice some of these techniques, whether you're a beginner or a practicing watercolor artist. You'll see you'll get better with time. If you like this video, do give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Press the bell icon for notifications on my upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.